So we have Kyle, a good friend of mine here with us today. For those who don't know Kyle is the CEO of an amazing championship ring company, one of the leaders in the world, Legend Rings. And if you lived in the Edmonton area or in anywhere northern Alberta, you probably ate at one of his restaurants. So with Synergy Franchising, you operate and run 20 plus Popeyes, if not more, coming up real fast here. We're going to dive into your story today and can you tell us more about how you got started and your journey to where you're at today?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a story I love to tell. Growing up in Edmonton, born and raised here, I think I always had like a bit of a passion and drive to be an entrepreneur, even if I didn't know that at the time. But I guess fast forwarding to starting in business, I had racked my brain for years and years and years about what to do. Tried so many different things, failed at so many different things, wrote dozens of business plans to try and do these things, and was never able to like take that step or pull the trigger on it until playing on my football team, the Jokers in the Edmonton Flag Football League. We won a championship, and I've played sports my whole life, but I was never lucky enough to win a championship.
I remember,
yeah.
I remember we played hockey together,
Yeah.
and that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And we were going into our playoff games, and I think everyone makes playoffs. And you had the most epic locker room speech to everyone. Everyone's like, "Wow, this is amazing." We still lost though, but you really held that room.
Yeah, I guess to preface the entrepreneurship, what really tied it together for me was like growing up playing sports. I was always the captain of the team. Like I was always the raw guy, and like giving like the Al Pacino speech before the games when I was like 14. But that, some people probably thought I was silly doing that when we were 25. But I love sports. I love competition and doing that. So I appreciate you remember those. And
I remember that
you were listening.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, like that passion, that drive from a sports side and that leadership, I realized later on when I was working in retail, when I had an opportunity to be a manager, that transcended perfectly. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm meant to be like a leader, and not necessarily in sports because it wasn't good enough, but more in the business side of it too, right? And then tying the entrepreneurship together with that drive and leadership was like perfect. So I guess back to starting Legend,
or but like starting retail. So a lot of us start in retail. Like I've done retail myself. We've all had the opportunity to work at the mall, selling clothes, whatever. Where did you get your start in retail?
Oh man, yeah.
Or was it restaurant first? A lot of people start in restaurants too.
No, we'll get to a lot of the restaurant stuff, but I did not work in a restaurant growing up at all. I didn't know or have much knowledge on that side of it. But from a retail perspective, when I was I think I was 20 in university, my mom and dad are like, "Listen, it's time to get a job. You need a part-time job. You need to
started late at 20."
Well, I would usually work in the summers kind of thing when I was in school. My parents are really, really good to me. They still are, but they gave me lots of leeway until I was about 20, and they said, okay, it's time to do that. And I wanted to travel. I wanted to do different things too. I need a little more money for that, right? So two good friends of mine that I went to high school with, one is Taylor Phillips, the other is Eddie Sang, who you hear about more later in this story. Helped me get a job at Bell in Londonderry Mall.
Okay.
Now that was where it started. So,
North side, hey?
Yeah, North side. I grew up years in that mall, and I still love it. I'll tell my wife, or like when I go to my parents still live in the North side in Belrive. I say, hey, let's stop at Londonderry Mall just to walk around. It's just fun to just walk around.
They try to make it all fancy now, though.
I know, move the food court.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, so I started working at Bell. And to that point, I was fairly shy. Like I wasn't that outgoing. So that pulled me out of my shell, being able to being forced to talk to people every day, customers, getting to know people.
I think we've all been there. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the difficult situations, get the feeling for like winning or like finishing a sale sort of a thing. So that was a huge step in I would say like growth for me as well too.
Yeah, working at Bell.
Yep. From there, I had a friend that worked at Wireless Wave. It got me to go over to Wireless Wave. So I worked at Wireless Wave for maybe a year or two there. And then I got offered a management job at Rogers to be store manager. And this is all in Londonderry Mall.
All
So,
Londonderry Mall. Okay.
yeah, just going
They're
store to
seeing
store.
what's happening there. Like, hey, we
Yeah.
need this guy on our team.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was like just a huge learning experience and a lot of fun. And one of the neat things I learned from that was the team that I had when I got there. Basically said, hey, we can come in, we can do like X amount of sales. It was like 200 activations this month,
Right?
And the team was like, we've never done more than 100. So in their mind, it was like they had that
Status
ceiling,
quo,
ceiling, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, no, I think we can do more than that, right? So with some inspiration, motivation, and hard work, I don't know if we got to 200, but I know we smashed the 100, right?
What do you think it was that you told the team, or that made the difference that they never was able to smash that ceiling and you got past that?
Yeah, I definitely added a few people from my team on the wireless wave side.
Right.
Came with me. We had a new regional manager. His name was Troy, which you'll hear more later in the story about him.
Troy, who's one of your partners today?
He's actually our vice president for Popeyes.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was the new district manager at the time there for us. So he had a strong belief in the growth and stuff like that. So it was kind of like him along with our team that we brought along, sort of pulling all the other people along and saying, no, like we don't have to settle for like what the standard was before. We can do a lot better than what's been done. And yeah, it just like went up and up and up from there.
So the difference was the right people, the right players in the field made the difference.
Yeah. Good sports analogy.
Yeah.
I like.
And what happened after? So you were running Rogers,
Yep.
you're crushing it at Rogers.
Yeah.
What's next?
So did that, and then I got a job opportunity. I think I was 25 or 26 at CDI College to be a director, a campus director.
Wow.
So I decided to do that. It was a big job. It was
Very different than what you've been doing.
It was, yeah, and it was in education. I honestly, I didn't know much about that side of it, but I knew people management and how to build teams. Went there, and similar kind of a concept. They had X level of success. I said we can do better, right?
Yes.
we can do a lot more, right? And for me, the big key is it's the right people, but it's also doing the right things, right? In that instance, it was doing right by the students, providing them good education, improving curriculum, better outcomes for jobs after, and things like that too. It's not an easy or quick fix. It's like a slow turn, right? You have to take years of development to get to that, right? So I think I was there for...
You need buy-in from the whole team, the staff, everyone.
Oh yeah. You can't just have, a few people believing in that. You have to have everyone buying into that belief, and then moving it forward, right? So yeah, I think after 4 years I was there, I was promoted to a regional director. So I was looking after all the schools in Edmonton and area. And we had just really good rapid growth. So,
yeah. And you didn't stick with education.
Nope.
So I know where you're at today.
Nope.
Where was the pivot point to leave CDI, and what was the next step?
Yeah. So this is where kind of we started with the story about legends. So yeah. I had grown up playing baseball, kind of quit playing baseball, I think when I was 22 or 23, and I started playing football after. I always had passion for football, and I started playing flag football, and I played, I think, for over 15 years.
Did you play high school football too?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, O'Leary Spartans.
Yeah.
Let's go. So I was playing flag football. We won our league championship, and I told the guys, I said, let's get rings, right? Half of them were like, ha ha ha, we're 25 to 30 years old, we don't need rings. Half of them were like, yes, this is amazing, let's do this. So it's interesting in business, whenever people ask me for advice, I say, when you encounter problems on a day-to-day, stop, write them down, and whether you do it there or that night or the next day, write down solutions for that problem. That's innovation. That's creating niches in the market, right? And that's effectively what I did. Looking for championship rings, contacted 3 or 4 companies. I think one got back to me. They wanted $800 for the rings.
For one ring.
Yeah. So I said, this market has really poor service, and this market is incredibly expensive. And I'm like, could I solve these things? And at that point, I had some experience in the past doing some importing from overseas. So I had imported cell phones back in the day when not everyone had an Apple or an iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? It was there's a lot of different things that were out there.
We're dating ourselves here a little bit.
Omega Cell, kind of like that, right?
Yes.
You know, but yeah. So I literally went on Alibaba and I said, let's find some jewelry manufacturers, some championship ring manufacturers, and ended up finding a really excellent partner. And
usually you don't find the right person like right off the get. You run through problems, you hit hurdles.
Yeah.
Some people get scammed or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah. So we found this really great partner there and got them to make the rings at a fraction of the cost of what the competitor would have charged us. And when you see like the artwork and stuff like that, these are going to be nice. We got them in person. I was like, wow, these are just beautiful, beautiful like rings.
How did the team love it?
Oh, they were beside ourselves. We went to, I think the Sawmill for dinner. We had like a private kind of like room and stuff like that. We did ring presentation. And I was like,
you're blown away by the experience.
This is amazing.
Right?
Oh yeah. It was so cool. And at that dinner, someone's like, hey, I do a golf tournament every year. Could you make me rings for my golf tournament? And I said, yeah, well, sure, of course. And then that's when it clicked to be like, I should build a website and I should do this.
Did you look at the competitive marketplace, see what's out there now in Canada, or how easily accessible it was before you? I mean, people are asking because they can't get it.
Yep.
Is that's what you found time over time?
Yep. So I studied a bit of the market. I looked at the competitors. I reached out to some people to try and get quotes on things. If they got back to me, I have an idea on pricing and stuff like that. But yeah, so I started to study this and I started to become more and more obsessed with the idea. And it was really exciting because usually if I had ideas in the past, it would kind of like hit a block where I was like, I don't think I can overcome this, right? Or it's not necessarily what I want to do. But with this, I mean, to build the website, a good friend of mine went to high school with him, Miguel. He built the website for me for a fraction of the cost, right, of what it should. So thanks, Miguel. So it's like very, very inexpensive to get into. And so that was really attractive. And then it was more like time, right? If I could just put a lot of time and effort into this and...
were you still at CDI at the time while this was going on?
As I was starting it, yeah. So this would have been in kind of the January, February 2013 is when I like kind of started. So we're year 10 now in this business. And then in, I believe it was April 2013. So that's it. I said it's time. If I can go and I think I put like a number of rings I need to sell in a month. It was like 40 rings in a month.
Who's doing the sales?
Me. You? It's traditional
entrepreneurship journey.
Is you do everything. Everything. Customer service, production, like you're doing everything, sales, like so I mean, one of the best times in my life, and I'll remember this day forever. I had quit that job. I think I worked 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it was, to finish it. I sat down on my porch. I lived in Summerside. Sat down on my little porch, and I had my laptop out, and the sun was shining. My fiance at the time, Laura, who's my wife now, just said, "Bye, I'm going to work." She went to work, and I just sat out there, had my coffee, and I had like I think 2 new leads that morning, and I'm like, "Oh my God,
this is it!
I can't believe I'm now. This is my life. I get to like." Just work at home. I get to just put all my time and effort and passion and love into this. Yeah. And I know if I can do that, I know I'll succeed. Yeah.
The word just to rewind a little bit, the word I heard from you was obsessed.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot. It's a lot of people say they're like interested in things, but being obsessed really makes that difference where you can put your whole love, passion, everything into it. Yeah. And you're all.
Yeah. Another thing I've learned in entrepreneurship, like I've had a lot of ideas that are like, I know nothing about, but in passing, it's like, this is a great idea, right? Or like, a good one was a grass painting idea. So there was this guy in the States, he had this franchise and it was basically, and it worked really well in the States.
What's a grass painting?
So you literally paint grass. Yeah. And it's like, it stains the grass. So it looks this beautiful green. So like first thing in the spring, you do that.
Oh, right. I've seen this.
Yeah. So it works really well in the States because the grass goes dormant in the southern states and like turns brown. Yeah. So people will paint their grass in the winter and makes it green, or they sell in their house. So I'm like, yeah, but what I realized, I knew nothing about this, right? So I knew sports. I knew what it feels like to win a championship. I
Yep.
understand the importance of that to people. So it was such a great match for me
You
to
kept with what
to
you
do
know
this.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fast forward now, your wife runs the business as well too, right?
yeah,
She's the COO of the
yeah,
business,
yeah.
runs day to day.
Yeah, me and her are wonderful partners. I guess to back that up too. So when I was working on everything just all myself,
Mm.
we were getting to the point where it was like growing. My wife worked at U of A at the time, and um, she doesn't work there anymore, so she can't get in trouble for this. But she would call in sick sometimes to help me pack
Fulfill
rings.
orders.
Yeah, literally, because we would have I'd have like 150 rings, and we didn't have a label printer. That
Yeah.
was handwriting labels, packing rings,
Yeah.
and yes, I mean like those are again really fun, great memories, right?
Yeah.
To do those things
100%.
is the grind, right? But she, yeah, it was about 3 months before we were getting married, and I just said, you know what? I said, the business is growing to a point where I think if you had some of the things that I'm doing, I could take on more sales.
Yeah.
And we can make this work, right? We still pay our bills. We're fine, right? So she did, and maybe I'm not as good of an entrepreneur as I think I am because the business did a lot better without me doing everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was really great working with her. I mean, we had 2 desks in a spare bedroom and kind of working side by side.
So it just starts like that and just grows from there.
Yep.
That's amazing. And when did you start? You added more team members, like.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You have a growing team there.
Yeah, we're gonna be up to I think we're 12 now.
Right.
Is our team size. So
Your clients are worldwide.
they are. I mean, we have mainly in the U.S., but we work with people in Europe, Australia. It's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. What are some of the clients that maybe you can name names of some of the amazing sports teams that have had a chance to win a championship and open a box with your ring in it?
Definitely. Yeah, it's some wild stories, and this is like just being such a sports fan, like making rings for some people. A fairly early one, probably when I was still just doing it. I got a phone call, number I didn't recognize, and guy said, "Hey, I'm looking for a fantasy championship ring for my client."
Right.
I was hoping we could trade, like just recognition online for it. And I'm like, okay, who's your client?
Yeah.
His client was Kevin Durant.
Oh, wow.
It was his agent. So this is one of the best marketing decisions I've made in my life. We made him a ring for free, and he sent a tweet out about us, and I think I was just sitting in my basement watching a movie or something like that, and my phone just like
Yeah.
and it was like all the likes and the retweets and comments, and
Just
it was
blew up
for days. It was like that. So
it's funny because you could have not picked up that call because it was an unknown number. You don't know who it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and he probably just would have went to a different company and
Yeah.
just done
Those
that.
moments, right?
So that was really, really cool. So that was neat, making a ring for Kevin Durant. One of the best marketing decisions I made besides that was, if you've watched the show, Last Chance U on Netflix, it's a football show. First 2 seasons followed the team in Mississippi, and the last 2 followed a team, Independence Community College, with a coach who's a little crazy, but they won the championship in the first season. They were featured, and we called them and were like, "We want to make your rings. We want to make your rings." The idea is we want to be featured on the show, right?
Right.
Because of the recognition. So we ended up making the rings effectively at cost. We agreed to make them 200 t-shirts with a massive Legend Rings logo on the back. And we made them a bunch of framed championship ring pictures for the offices. So if you watch season 4 of Last Chance U, you will see Legend Rings everywhere on that season. And it was so good because the majority of the people are sports fans or football fans or football players, coaches. So that just provided us an insane
Whose idea was that?
recognition.
Your idea?
I think it was my idea.
Yeah.
I think we as a team we meet and we are like, who should we go after? Like, what are the unique things we can do to kind of shake up the market, right? So
it's finding that unique things, and sometimes ideas are there, but I always hear like the idea, but it's taking the time to execute that and going all the way through making those phone calls. You probably didn't get the phone picked up your first time calling. Sure, I'll do this for you. Anything for you guys. You had to really sell it and push it. And it was not easy.
Yeah, and I think I remember the phone calls basically saying, hey, like, I'm a huge sports fan. I also own this business. You tell me what you need to make this work, and I will do this. I want to make your rings.
Yeah.
So I know for me, it's just like trying to be as passionate and genuine as possible, being as honest like as you can in these things. Not some people. I think a lot of people actually really appreciate that, right? And they'll put their faith in you, right?
But you have to find the right person to get through it and all that, you know?
Yeah, and like that sometimes that's hard, right? Like
Yeah.
the coach, you can't get a hold of the coach,
No.
right? Yeah, we ended up talking to the athletic director, and luckily enough, she was the one that made the call on these things and was good to go.
It worked out in the end.
She's a really great lady. So
Yeah.
yeah. The next one after that, I would say, is probably the most recent, the most neat one, and the same thing, picking up the phone and just grinding to call and find the right person. Red Bull Racing. So 2 years ago, we made Max Verstappen his championship ring when he edged out Lewis at the end of the season.
Right.
So we're working on like a long-term like partnership with them, and that's been like years in the making. But
Huge.
boy, what's really neat about that and what makes me excited is Europe as a market doesn't have the same affinity for championship rings
As the North America does.
exactly, but there's no reason why they shouldn't.
Right.
So
The feeling is the same.
yeah,
When you open that box and you put on the ring.
exactly.
Right.
So an athlete like Max in a sport like Formula One, if there can be some adoption there, I think that would be a huge hinge point, and I think a lot of people would say, okay, this is now more normal. So,
That's amazing. But all of these happen because you're able to get out of that comfort zone, make those phone calls, go for the big picture and go for that, you know, at bat, and hopefully, you know, you hit that home run. And but if you never try, then you never know and you never get it.
Yeah, and we struck out hundreds of times. So
Yeah.
that's good. We've had some home runs.
Yeah. At what point in this journey did you decide to bring Popeyes chicken to Alberta?
Yes. So this
is not about sports, nothing to do with championship rings. You've never worked in fast food your whole life.
Yeah.
And you're like, let's bring a fast food QSR Popeyes chicken to Edmonton.
Yeah. So I'll start off saying it definitely was not my idea.
Right.
It was my business partner and really good friend all the way back from high school in O'Leary, Eddie, who I said you would get back to in the story, who I worked with at Bell and at Rogers back in the day. Eddie is like the guy that everyone respected so much in school. I mean, Eddie was like an entrepreneur in high school. Basically, he always had a nice car. Like he was always like same thing, importing phones, doing different things.
Right.
Like, Eddie was just the guy.
He's a grinder.
Exactly. And
hustle.
Outside of like school for him, he barely had like a job after finishing university to signing a deal to franchise all the Papa John's pizzas in Edmonton.
Right.
And did so good with that. And just like, again, someone that we always looked up to. Everyone looked up to, all of our friend group and stuff like that. It's funny how decisions open different doors in different places. So when I left my job and I started Legend, definitely wasn't like a smash hit from the start. It was barely making it by. But what it opened up for me was time. And I used some of that time to start going for lunch once a week with Eddie.
Right.
And we would talk about business, and I wanted to learn from him. And those lunches...
At that time, he was running Papa John's.
Papa John's, yeah.
Right.
And those lunches turned into, hey, we should do something together in business one day. And that would be a really good idea. I think we really respected one another. And if I was still working my day job, that would have never happened. Right.
Yeah.
So
you have to be intentional about these relationships and going out to these lunches, having these meetings, getting together, even as we get older with just like friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%. Right. Yeah. And
that's why I always bug you about being at hockey.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Tell my poor niece this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we would do these lunches and stuff like that. And, just said we should do something together, like threw around a bunch of ideas. And then I was literally at a American Football Coaches Association conference, I think in San Antonio. And I was at like in the trade show booth, and Eddie's calling me. So I pick up, hey, what's up, man? And chit chat for a few minutes. And he's like, do you like Popeye's chicken? I said, yes, I do. I said, if I'm ever in the States, I actually usually try and go there, right? The first time I had it was in Hawaii, and I loved it. And he's like, do you want to open 14 Popeyes with me? And I'm like,
Where did that number 14 come from?
So Eddie at the time had actually started talking with them.
Right.
His mentor suggested Church's Chicken because there was not really much competition in Edmonton. It was just basically KFC.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't like Church's, but I like Popeyes. He reached out to them, and perfect timing. They had actually, a deal for Alberta had just fallen through. So they were ready to go and move forward in Alberta. Eddie contacted them within literally the week. So timing, incredible timing. And basically they said, yeah, we'd love to meet with you. We would need a commitment of 14 stores.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a big commitment.
It is, right? And that was like a bit more entrenched and like a bit bigger of a deal than I think what either of us had ever done.
Yeah.
And again, talking together, doing these things. Eddie had a really good background on restaurant development, real estate, building, and doing that sort of thing. And I was more of an operations guy from my time in retail and education. And he saw the opportunity to put us together and build this thing.
Where was the first in Canada? Was it in Alberta or was it in Ontario first? Or
yeah, so actually Popeyes has been in Ontario since like 1990. It's been there for a long time. Yeah. Wow. But we were the first one in Western Canada, so we were the first ones outside of Ontario actually. But yeah, so literally, I'm like just sitting there. I'm like, holy cow! I'm like,
that came fast.
Yeah, I think so.
That came fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So I called Laura that night, and we were getting married that summer. So still fiance, and I called my parents, and it was really cool. Both of them were like, Eddie is.
They know Eddie.
Yeah, they know Eddie. They're
Right.
like Eddie is a great entrepreneur. He's brilliant. Like at what he does, do it.
Yeah.
Like without hesitation. So I was
Did you
feeling
think
the
about
same.
did you think about what's the worst can happen scenario?
Yeah, you know what? And very often it's not too bad, right? Like the worst case. So I was more like, I think friendship is very valuable too, right? You don't want to sacrifice that, and it's always hard to go into business with friends. But I think what I found, and I absolutely hit the nail on the head on this, but me and him have the exact same values and beliefs, and we get along so well because of that. If there's something that I'm really passionate about, he'll default to me. If there's something he's really passionate about, I'll default to him, right? So that's what's made it a really, really good.
It's a great relationship.
Good partnership.
Yeah. Sometimes it's really hard to, do something together with a really good friend. Acquaintance is one thing, but someone who's, your childhood friend.
Yeah.
Usually people say, don't do that. You get into issues, all that, but we've seen it go pretty well for you.
Yeah. Great. Like, hit the lottery for sure.
So where was the first Popeyes?
It was in Tamarack in Edmonton.
Tamarack. Wow.
Yeah. And that was, I went back to one of the happiest legend moments, like that sitting on the porch. The first day open in Tamarack is another one for sure.
Oh. Line up out the door.
Oh my God. Line up down the block. It was just unbelievable. The turnout and the demand for people to come to Popeyes. And what's crazier is it got busier every day. So I think we opened on a Monday, and it got busier every day until Saturday. And Saturday was like fever pitch. Like, I'm not joking you, like people waiting in line for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Right. To get chicken. So
now I want chicken. After this, we're gonna go get chicken.
Yeah.
Were you ever scared? One, taking on 14 stores, two, opening that first location, building it out, that they're like, hey, Popeyes is new. Maybe Edmontonians, Albertans don't know what Popeyes is. Yeah. We're so used to the KFC or whatever else is here. Were you scared to bring something new to the market? Because sometimes it's a hit, and sometimes people, you think it's a hit because it works really well in the States, but doesn't translate to, here in Alberta.
Yeah. I look back at it now, and I'm almost surprised how unrisk adverse I was. Like we didn't even really put a ton of thought into the negative side of it, right? Like I think we looked really on the positive side of things, and similar idea to Legend. Like if we put all of our effort and attention to this, and we focus on building out a great team that's gonna deliver great service and a great product, we can't lose, right? We just can't. Like it just doesn't make sense. So luckily we were right. But yeah, looking back, I mean, definitely like if we had nobody coming to the restaurant or very few people, boy, it would have been.
And the first location is always so important, right? Because you don't know where to go open, and is that community gonna love fried chicken? Is gonna be okay with that, because different communities are different, different intake. But like what you said, here you're kind of going in risk averse, but sometimes it's almost going into it just all in. And if you worried too much at that point, you might have not done that deal.
Yep.
And you worried about too long, the deal timeline might have passed, something might have happened. Sometimes when you got that gut feeling, you just gotta go all in.
Yeah. Eddie says it best. If you try and operate on 90% certainty, you'll never do anything because other people will do it. You kind of have to operate on that like 60 to 70% certainty, because that's where it's more risk adverse for most people, right? So yeah.
So fast forward today, how many Popeye chickens are there in Alberta or Northern Alberta?
Yeah,
You handle Northern Alberta.
Northern Alberta. So Red Deer North. So we just opened our 20th in McConaughey.
Congratulations.
Northside, thank you. We have 21 opening on the West End this year, and we'll get to somewhere 26 to 28 range. There's some pockets in the city and some other communities like Spruce Grove and Fort McMurray, which we need to get to still.
And they're asking for it.
Yeah, right. And it just becomes more about real estate and like finding spots that are really good. We're very, 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 very picky on where we put the stores. I think sometimes the brand would love for us to open a little bit quicker, but we're
location's important.
Oh, super important. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people do it differently where you might let's say own the master franchise to the area and you sell different. Why did you guys decide instead of selling out pieces to other people, just run it and operate on your own? Because big thing to operate.
Totally.
26 stores.
Totally. So when we started, we weren't sure how we were going to do it. Popeyes, the agreement that we have with them is we have to maintain majority ownership in every store. So we could have hypothetically had partners in each of the stores as managers that would run them. Then we would not have as much responsibility for them in a sense. When we opened that first store and we saw the demand, we kind of said, maybe we don't want partners with this. Maybe we just want to like build this out ourselves and build
Run it the way you want to.
Exactly. Build out a head office team and keep everything under our umbrella, right? And that's what we ended up doing, right? So we have I think a little over 600 team members, including our head office. And
600 team members is a lot of team members to
it's crazy.
take care of.
Yeah. So we have a full built out head office team and a regional team from HR, finance, marketing, regional leaders, training,
Everything.
Yeah, and just it's really cool. A lot of our managers in our stores and assistant managers started as team members, have worked their way up, and a lot of our head office started in the store as well too, right? And worked their way up to those regional or head office roles.
And I love that part about your organizations. You bring in people from your childhood friend, two. We talked about Troy, who worked right at was it Rogers? Or
so Troy was our boss at Rogers.
Oh wow!
And when we were scaling up and we were about to open our third store, and this was super early to bring on, at the time he was a director, but we always looked at it as 14 plus stores. We said, what do we have to do to be ready for all of this? So we always hired early for any of the head office roles. And we could have waited a little bit and saved a few bucks, but you know what?
But Troy's awesome, and I had a chance to meet him as well too.
Troy is a wonderful leader. He's vice president. He effectively runs the company now, right?
Yeah.
We all collaborate together, but put me and him and Eddie together. I mean, we make things happen.
All-star team.
Yeah, we do great things.
I love how you bring people with you though. So people from, I think you pick you end up working with the right people. You have the right team. And why not bring that right team to the next step in the journey to the new companies and so on, right?
I'm very, very loyal, and when I find people that I really trust and they trust me, I'll work with them for a long time, right? Our manager of people and culture, Sarah, I worked with at the college.
Okay.
Sam on the ring business side, I worked with him at Rogers and the college and Legend.
Wow.
He runs sales for the company. So yeah, I'm really big on people development. I want to see, people achieve their personal and professional goals, right, with us. If they're not, I'm probably not doing my job, right? So it's a lot of fun and really rewarding when you can see people grow. I mean, they start families, they're getting married, they're getting houses. Like it's really awesome to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And 600 of those people you look over.
Yeah, and we've had people on our team. Our initial team member count, I think we're 71 or 72. I think we're still 36 of those people still work with us today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It
And
tells you something about the culture of the company and the vision where it's going. What's next for Popeyes? Is it more Popeyes, or does Synergy Franchising have something amazing in the pipeline that you can mention, or not yet?
yeah, so more Popeyes. I feel pretty confident saying it, but we're signing a deal with Firehouse Subs.
Amazing.
It's another brand under the umbrella with RBI. So RBI is Popeyes, Tim Hortons, Burger King, and Firehouse. So we signed a development agreement for 8 stores with Firehouse Subs to bring some of those to Edmonton. We're working on real estate and leases.
When should we see our first Firehouse Hub?
If things go well on our lease, it'll be this year. So it'll
Wow, that's
be
pretty
November,
quick.
December this year for us.
Amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's if you haven't had it,
I
it's
haven't.
oh man, it's someone told me that like, oh, happy you're bringing something a lot healthier, and I said, well, not necessarily completely healthier, but it's such a really great product. It's these like really gigantic subs. They steam them. The brand story is amazing too because it's started by 2 firefighters that lived in Florida. Um, they would make these sandwiches at the fire hall and stuff like that, and they decided to do this. There's a huge tie to the community because they donate a percentage of their sales to the local fire departments,
Right.
EMS and stuff like
And
that.
do you get to continue that with your
Exactly.
locations here?
Exactly. It's
Wow.
part of their standard actually is donating and giving back, which we're 100%
Yeah,
for.
it's amazing.
It's
I know
great.
Popeyes
So
does that quite a bit as well too.
Yep.
Yep.
yeah. Always like to give back. And I think it's an important part of it, right? It's an important part about tying yourself to the community, to showing that you give back.
You're
But
involved.
yeah, but so it's, I mean, that is a brand too, and we've vetted a lot of different brands over the years, and that was one where we felt that same alignment, like between people, community, passion, a really great product, and a market, I think too, where no offense to Subway, like we all grew up having Subway and stuff like that
Yeah.
too. There's can just be more competition, I think. For
Yeah.
So
Or something new to try. Options.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Looking back, let's say 10 years, I think both Popeyes there, but Legend Rings about 10 years. Is there something that you'd have done or changed, or now that you're at where you're at now, is there something that you would have changed that you would have done earlier, that maybe would have got you more of a head start, or a roadblock that happened that you'd like to tell us that someone in this journey could probably avoid?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Oof. On the Popeye side, definitely not. I feel like we've done a heck of a job on development. Like again, like I mentioned before,
Yeah.
about bringing people on early. So like no regrets on that. Legend, I think maybe like even more of a belief. I for the longest time I had like I'll call it like a limiting belief, like I shouldn't be having these conversations, right? Like I'm not good enough to be doing this. Like, and it's these things you put in your mind that
Scare yourself for no reason.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's like like when you're talking to a Division I school coach, right? It's
Yeah.
super intimidating, right? I think I'm like I would say I'm very much past that now and whatnot. But back then I probably would have said, don't be afraid, Kyle. Don't be worried. You have a really great product. You deliver a really great service. The rings you make are beautiful. Like, don't worry about it. But at the time, I think I like kind of like
You're the new guy in town.
yeah. I made
Yeah.
I made myself kind of afraid for no reason. So
Yeah.
so I think most entrepreneurs will go through.
Everyone
that,
has
right?
that voice that speaks in your head that
Yep.
tells you, oh no,
Yep.
we're not good enough or big enough, or they might look at us a certain way.
Yep.
But that's not true at all.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe
You're the only one looking at yourself like that.
Yeah, totally right. I guess the advice would be to acknowledge that and understand it and address it
Yeah.
when you're feeling it, when you're a young entrepreneur, and then get over it and move on, right?
Right.
As best you can. So
Building a team and building an awesome team is number one.
yeah,
And then
that's-
making sure you have
team is
belief
everything.
and have a vision in place. What would you tell someone who is, hey, I want to start a franchise. I want to bring a franchise in. I know it's no easy feat by any means. And there's so much to it, but any advice to someone who's looking to start a chain or bring a chain in, or whatever the case is?
Yeah, I would say really vet the franchisor, right? Not all franchisors are created equally. RBI is an excellent franchisor. They're very, very supportive. They really think things through, and they're always pushing the envelope from a product development standpoint to, trying to lower our costs, right? And do things better for us. I don't think every franchise is the same. So really vetting them. Opening one, you're kind of buying a job too. So if you can try and have a strategy to have multiple locations, right, where you can have management and really good teams running them, and then you can be the one that's overseeing,
And it's hard
3,
to say
4,
up
5
front
restaurants.
because people are like, well, the financial investment to open multiple is so hard versus
Yep.
just trying the one. What if it doesn't work or
Yep.
whatever? But I think what I heard earlier was the fact that you were locked into 14 locations up front is that you had no choice already. The vision was there. You have to run it like you had 14 locations.
Yep.
And I think that was something that almost scaled you up faster into where you're at today versus if you were just going to open one, try it out. If that goes well in a couple of years, try two. And then there's no timeline to the growth where
Yep.
you started early and said, we have to act like we were 14 locations right up front.
Yeah. 100%, right? Yeah. Like we almost had no choice and ignorance was bliss for us.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, no, it's food business is definitely not easy. But it's doable, and there's viable business to be had, but you have to focus on building an incredible team that's really engaged, because if you don't have that, one, they're not going to make great product, and two, they're not going to take care of your guests. If you have a team that's engaged and is, doesn't want to let you down as a leader,
Yeah.
they're going to go and give great service, and they're going to make great food. Right.
And then when you control all the locations, I think that's resonating. No matter which Popeyes I go to, and to be honest, I frequent them quite a bit.
My man.
The team is awesome. Whether it just be speaking to them through a drive-through or the service in store, I really got to say the team is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that was like, oh, I know the guys.
Yeah, and we definitely
it goes from top down though, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say we sacrifice probably like profitability for sure to give back a little bit more to the teams to make sure they're taken care of. But at the end of the day, it's looking at the long-term business, right? Like we didn't want to have lineups for a month at Popeyes when we opened our first store. We wanted to have
excellent
14
service
stores at the time.
Yeah.
They all were doing really, really well. And there's only one way to do that: good food, good service. And we have to take care of our people to do that.
100%.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
What does a day in a life look like for someone who runs two growing and fast companies, and taking care of 600 people and still balancing being a husband to a wife who also runs one of the companies? What does a normal day look like for you?
So I've over the years, I've become very good at separating the two businesses, right? So Tuesdays are kind of like my main legend day. So I can really compartmentalize and focus on legend that day. Wednesday is more Popeyes day, and then Monday, Thursday, Friday, I kind of will schedule in meetings for each of them and go ad hoc on those days. But I feel like it's
so you're early riser, up early.
Yeah. Usually I would never was.
You're a CrossFit athlete. Are you hitting CrossFit in the early mornings or
noon? I break up my day. I work hard in the morning, clear my mind.
Okay.
And then work hard in the afternoon, I guess. Right. But yeah, I used to be a night owl. My wife gets up early, so now I've get up at 6 or 6:30 in the morning and do that. And
how do you decompress when you're through your day?
I really try to shut off like around dinner time. Everything goes away, so I won't touch anything with work in the evening.
And home life becomes home life, so you both aren't talking about work all day long.
Yeah, we usually try and go for a walk with the dogs. That's a really good way to kind of like just talk about things that happen in each of our days, and then just have some dinner and watch a show, go visit friends, go visit family, like whatever that kind of the night looks like. But yeah,
it's amazing. To wrap up, just a couple of questions is, when you're not eating at a Popeyes, your own restaurant, what are your favorite places to check out?
That's a tough one. I know it's coming, so I'll say this because I know it's coming, and I'll unleash a surprise for them. Chipotle is coming to Edmonton.
Wow!
And I love Chipotle.
This is the first I've heard about this.
Really?
Actually. I think so.
Really? Yeah. So they're
or maybe I'm not in the know.
They've signed a bunch of leases. I think it's probably because we know more from the real estate side.
Yeah.
Signed a bunch of leases, and they're coming. So I will probably eat Chipotle like twice a week.
Wow.
I really enjoy it. But as is now, if I just looking for like a quick lunch. Edo Japan. That's like
Yeah.
old Londonderry Mall days, man.
Yeah.
Used to
Everyone
have
goes to
Edo all
mall
the
to
time.
Edo.
So,
Are you a donair guy?
oh yeah, I love donairs, but that's a once in a while. And
We can't do it every week anymore.
yeah, I'll settle this. Swiss donair is number one.
Okay.
No one can say anything against Swiss.
Right.
So North Side.
Shout out to Swiss Donair.
Wajdi.
Yeah. We got to get them a sponsor on this.
Yeah, actually, you have Wajdi as a guest. He'd be a good one.
Awesome. And lastly, one piece of advice to anyone who's starting their entrepreneur career, like right now, maybe they're working their 9 to 5 and like, hey, man, I want to start something new, or they're just getting out of school and they're like, should I, take a career job or start something?
Yeah.
What's that one piece?
Yeah.
That one thing that makes a difference?
I was just talking to someone about this the other day, but going back to like that percentage of risk, right? You have to operate on a relative certainty. You can't operate on guarantees. If you want to operate on a 99.9 or 100% guarantee, you'll just be paralyzed. You'll never do anything about that, right? If you have an idea, you understand and have passion for that industry or like the idea that you have, and there's not really any major roadblocks to you doing it. Just taking the step and believing in yourself is a really important thing.
That's usually the hardest one.
Yeah, it is, right? And what I was gonna say, because Eddie and I had this conversation with a mutual friend, but you can't just want it. You have to want it like badly. Badly obsessed. Yeah, you got to want it really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, I think, there's a saying. I don't know who said this, but a really talented person with an average idea can do really great. A person that's maybe not super talented, doesn't have a lot of passion for it, with a really great idea, probably won't succeed. Mm-hmm. So if you put all that effort and attention and passion and all of your being into that, even if your idea isn't like the next biggest thing in the world, because honestly, Legend, it's not like the most groundbreaking idea.
Right.
It's just
it's been out there. It's been there for years.
Exactly.
Centuries.
But the passion and bringing on a really great team has just driven us into being one of the probably like 3 or 4 biggest championship ring companies in the world. So.
Well, I think I heard this from Tim Grover is like Kobe or Michael Jordan. They weren't interested in winning. They were obsessed about winning, and that was all they. And as soon as they won, the next morning, it's starting all right over again. There's no time for celebration. They're just back at the grind. So what I'm hearing from what you said, be obsessed, take action. Oh, believe first, then take action, equal your result.
100%.
Right. Awesome. We'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for coming down and
thank you for having me.
giving us your story.
It was a blast.
Awesome.